Good evening. Good evening. I think I'm running a couple of minutes early, which is kind of unusual for me. But here he is, Pastor Dixon. What's going on, folks? Take a minute to tag some folks right quick. So please, if you're chiming in, if you're checking in, just relax a minute. Give me a chance to take care of this business. Let me see. Let's see. I hope you've had a wonderful day today. Of course, the news ain't getting no better. And looking at the projections, unless there's an absolute miracle, which I do believe in miracles, the news might not get too much better for a while. And as I put up in my intros earlier today, tonight is going to be more on a serious note. I think that there is a time for seriousness. It's like there's a time to laugh. I think that the message tonight is one that it not only deserves a serious look at, but to make sure that it happens that way. So let me try to get a few more people tagged in here. I know everybody that I'm tagging might not want to hear a serious message, but it is what it is. As I've said many times before, I'm not in this to win friends and influence people. I'm in here to make the world in this to make the world a better place for everybody. That's the bottom line, for sure. And it's unfortunate that people reject truth, but it's a reality of the world that we live in. You can't just tell the truth and hope that people are going to accept it. People today fight against the truth. They find it easier to fight against the truth and accept the truth that, as the scriptures that I believe in say, that truth will set you free. So let me tag a few more people here. Okay, let's see. Gotta get Sid. Hope I got some of my folks from Chicago. Okay, all righty. All right, well, what's going on, folks? All right, got a few people in the house. Yeah. Shauna Lee, I've been thinking about you today, you and Izan, especially, it's looking like this thing with you all having the first confirmed case and the first confirmed deaths on that West Coast there, that it looks like that there's going to be a spike coming soon. So you all please stay safe. Stay safe, And if you need me, I'm right here. Okay, I know that's 3,000 miles away, but still in all, through the miracle of social media, I'm still right here for you and Izan and anybody else that's off that West Coast that might need to reach out. Right here, for sure. We all family, no matter which way it goes. Sharice, good to see you. I got a big mosquito bothering me. Go ahead on now. Go ahead on. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Sean, good evening. All righty. Robin, all righty, out of Augusta, formerly of Somerville. Aaron, Rodney, what's going on? All right. Minister Turner, what's going on? All right, my brother. I'm still at it, brother. I'm still at it. I'm a long way from Coastal Pre-Release Center, but I'm still grinding and still working for the kingdom, that's for sure. Zach Vapper. Ron, what's going on, brother? All right. Rodney, what's happening? Yeah, the truth is the hardest thing to accept sometimes. It's crazy. Don't make sense to me. Francis, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, Pam. Yeah, I know it's you, Ron. Jamia, good evening. How are you? Okay. Yeah, we need to talk about what's going on over on your job situation. Okay, I got one mosquito that's giving me the blues. Y'all excuse me for a second. I'm not gonna be able to get him, but I need to make sure this door closed. That was not a wise move there. I guess you all can tell I'm like not indoors right now. I'm outdoors. I'm on my back porch listening to the raindrops. They're not falling on my head, but listening to the raindrops. Brad Mole, what's going on? Good to see you, sir. Candidate, South Carolina candidate for 1st Congressional District. Mike London, Councilman, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. We need to get together. Zoom, Skype, FaceTime or something, okay? So we got all these restrictions going out, it's crazy. But I don't possess the spirit of fear, but that's all. We still called to be cautious also. Wise. That's the deal. Okay. So, good to see everyone. I pray that everybody's had a great day. Miss Taz, how you doing? Good to see you chiming in. Pray that everyone had a great day today. And I just want to get on off into this. Jesse, what's going on? All righty. Good to see you, Danielle. Get on off into this because this is going to be a message tonight that is going to be like away from the serious, the sort of humorous aspect where I can just drop in little notes of humor along the way. I just don't think that this is the kind of message that I'll really do justice by dropping those bits of humor in. So this is going to be sort of a serious message tonight. And I'm going to start out by doing an update on the coronavirus, COVID-19, and where we've come from, bringing it up to date. As far as South Carolina, not on the national scene, not going there, not on the global scene, okay? Even though the national scene is off the chain, especially like New York. I think New York had like 760 some odd deaths in the last 24 hours. And we still got people talking about media trying to scare you or something. And it ain't serious. There's a lot of fools out here. That's what it is. I hate to say it, but it's a lot of fools out here. Wise in their own minds, okay? And when you wise in your own mind, you can be a fool. Somebody write that down for sure. But here's how the death toll has spiked in the United States in the last 31 days, okay? Remember, our first death in the United States happened on February 29th, March 1st, right up in there, which was 31 days ago. Today is March 31st. I want to put this in perspective, okay? This is 31 days, 4 weeks ago. All right? A time period where ain't nobody had 2 birthdays yet. It's 31 days. 31 days. I'm trying to make sure that we understand like the brevity of this thing. Really a lot of times when we think about the civil rights movement or slavery or whatever, we think like it's like ancient times. And the reality was the end of those eras is when I was born, and I'm still alive today. It's not that long ago. But when we look at this coronavirus and the damage that is done in the United States in 31 days, first death in the United States was 31 days ago. Let's look at it. Let's see what's happening. So as I said, March 1st, February 29th, which if you remember was the Democratic primary in South Carolina. We all voted that day, okay? If you can remember that couple of weeks ago, that was the first death in the United States. It happened on the West Coast. 22 days later, okay, 3 weeks later, on March 23rd, the death toll had gone from that 1 death on March 1st to 500 deaths in the United States. 501, actually, in the United States. 22 days after the first death. Okay. And that in itself is bad. But just think about it. Okay. The 23rd was 1 week ago yesterday. Okay. 1 week ago yesterday was the 23rd. Friday, this last Friday, which was 5 days after the 23rd, last Monday. Last Friday, that number had gone from 501 deaths in the United States to 1,575 deaths in the United States. It jumped up 1,000 deaths in 4.5 days. It's crazy. Crazy. And the people that still think it's a joke. Okay? But we stop and look at it, though, 2 days after that. Friday, it was 1,575. On Sunday, 2 days after that number, 2 days ago, that jumped up from 1,575 to 2,435. Over 900 in 2 days. Remember, it jumped up 1,000 in 4 days, 4.5 days. Now, in 2 days, it jumped up almost another 1,000 in 2 days. Yesterday, the United States experienced its single most highest day for deaths since this all started. 575 people died in the United States yesterday from coronavirus, COVID-19. 575 people died. And today, that number that on Sunday, 2 days ago, was 2,435. Today, we're over 3,700 dead. That number doubled and some more in 2 days. Over, it's crazy. It's not doubled, but 1,300 more in 2 days' time. 1,300 more deaths in 2 days' time. And I might as well say because it's going to double. If you see the progression, all of those that are added each time in between those days, 4 days gained 1,000. 2 days, the next time gained 900. 2 days this time, 1,300. Eventually it's going to get to 2 days and it's going to be doubled, that number, for sure. Because this thing is not going away. There's no vaccine, none in sight for at least a year or so. I've heard some preliminary reports right now that they might have something by the end of the year. How many are going to be dead by then? The projection right now is that in the United States, coming out of the White House today, they said the death toll in this might be as much as 240,000 Americans. 240,000. And some said, and that's whether we're sheltering in place or not. Whether we staying away from each other or not, practicing social distancing. They're saying regardless, about 240,000 might die here. And they said that number could swell up to 2 million. And I talked about the pastor the other night who said, the media just trying to scare you. Yeah, I'm scared to death. And I'm putting this out here because I not only don't want to be scared to death, I want to be scared to life. So I will respect what the experts are talking about and not listen to somebody who's out here just spouting off and trying to delay people and trivialize what's going on, and ultimately is going to get somebody killed out here. And they won't find out. I'm a Christian. They won't find out till Judgment Day. And they say, I didn't do anything. Oh, shoot. Yeah, you was telling people the coronavirus was a scare. You caused somebody to walk out here and catch that virus. You are guilty of murder. Yeah, I believe in judgments, okay? The judgment. All righty. Yep, today, 794 deaths in the United States today. That's crazy. I'm going to just give one global number. Global number of deaths due to coronavirus in like 3 months' time. 40,636. 40,000 people dead, and that number is rising rapidly, okay? Rapidly. Okay, so that's the United States. Let's bring it back closer. Let me bring it back to South Carolina. Let me rein it right on into where we're at. South Kakalaki, okay? In South Carolina, there have been 22 deaths attributed to the coronavirus to date. 22, all righty? Now, I don't know what happened, but when I first started putting this together earlier today, there was only 18. 4 people died since I started putting this together this afternoon. 4 more people in South Carolina died. And when I looked up and I saw it was 22, I'm like, what happened? Coronavirus, COVID-19 happened. 4 more people died. It took us from 18 up to 22 in South Carolina as of today. Okay. So let me backtrack. Let me just start from where this started at, okay, in South Carolina. Our first death in South Carolina was on Monday, March 16th. Okay. That was the first death. And to bring it into context, okay, on March 16th, the United States death toll was 85 on March 16th. And March 16th was nothing but 15 days ago, right? 15 days ago. We had our first death in South Carolina, and the death toll across the United States at that time was 85. The death toll in the United States right now is 3,558. In 15 days, we jumped up almost 3,500 deaths in 15 days. Okay. So that was the first death in South Carolina, March 16th. 4 days later, March 20th, Friday, March 20th, we had 2 more deaths. Okay. In Florence County and one in Charleston County. Okay. That was our first death in Charleston County. And by God's grace, so far, we haven't had another one reported yet. Okay, because it's coming. Monday, March 23rd, 3 days later, we had 2 more deaths, one in Sumter County, one in Clarendon County. The next day, we had 2 more deaths in Florence County and in Horry County. That brought the total up to 7. The next day, so we had one the 23rd, we had 2 the 23rd, 2 the 24th, and on the 25th, we had another death in Kershaw County. That brought it up to 8. Between the 25th and the 27th, there were 2 days, there were approximately 2 more deaths in there. I just couldn't find the information on that. I know it's somewhere. I know it's in the coroner's report. But there were 2 more. That brought it up to, at the end of March 27th, which was last Friday? last Friday, March 27th. That brought our total up to 10. As we went into Friday. As of Thursday, it was 10. Okay. So Friday, we had 4 more deaths. 1 in Florence County, another one in Charleston. That's the second one in Charleston. And the 2, I'm not sure exactly where they were. Bringing the total up to 14 deaths. 2 days later, on Sunday, day before yesterday, we had 2 more deaths. 1 in Richley County and 1 in Horry County, making the total 16. Yesterday, we had 2 more deaths. 1 in Anderson County and 1 in Beaufort County, making the total 18. And like I said, when I first put this together early today, 18 was the top. By the time I glanced at the TV a little while ago, 22 was the top. 4 more people died today in South Carolina, to make the total 22 in 15 days in South Carolina. So that's the update, folks. That's the update. Anybody wondering, that's how the progression went. Let me stop and say hi to a couple of people here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Backing it back. Okay. All right. Wow. Hey, a lot of folks on here. All righty. Anjane, what's going on, Brother Willie? How you doing? Good to see you. All righty. Linda, what's going on? Life Community Church in the house, for sure. Yvette, how you doing? AC Parham in the house. All righty. Aaron Comstock in the house, my brother. Charleston Uplift. Gina Mocha, Regina Duggins, candidate for South Carolina House District 111. Okay. Definitely one of our candidates. Latanya, good to see you. It's been a while. Haven, how you doing? Rajan, Real Talk with Rajan. What's happening, brother? All righty. Angela, Ray, Kat, how you been? I hope everything's all right. Okay. I know everything's all right with you, for sure. Missy, what's going on? Crystal, how you doing? For sure. Glenn, Jane, keeping you in my prayers. Okay, good to see you with us tonight. Pam, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Missing you as always. Lily, how are you? Miam, how you doing? Donovan, Kevin, Kenneth and Jacqueline, good to see you all. Good to see you all. Thank you all for checking in for sure. Now, that's the update. That's where we're at. In South Carolina, we had 22 deaths in 15 days, and that number is going to grow, okay? And in that same 15 days, across the United States, we went from 85 deaths to 3,558 deaths. And folks think this is a joke. It's not a joke. This is serious. And we need to treat it like it's serious. We need to make sure that when folks are encouraging us to practice social distancing, that we're taking it seriously, because other nations have done this, and they've found out that it does reduce the death toll. That doesn't eliminate the death toll. And in a lot of ways, it's not going to stop those that have the coronavirus target on their back from getting it. But at least doing something will always beat doing nothing. Don't just open up the door and say, okay, well, it ain't gonna get me, or that's a joke, or the media is playing games. Nah. I was watching the president earlier today, and it looked like he didn't change his thing, okay? He ain't talking about, sort of jokingly about this thing no more. Of course, he got a couple of people that have been hospitalized, one of them in a coma right now, He's not talking about this a hoax or nothing like that. He ain't talking about he got control of this thing. He's talking about it's serious. So he done changed his mind. So I hope that those same people, like that pastor who follow up behind him are like a blind sheeple, will change his mind too and stop telling people that this is a media scare. This is serious. People are dying, and this can affect any one of us at any time, or someone that we love. And I'm going to talk tonight about that impact of what happens when someone we love, or us, when it hits us, when it hits home, what we're going to go through. So people are dying inside of COVID units, isolated units, COVID-19 isolated units across the United States and around the world. People are dying. They've been up to 1,000 a day in Italy for a long time. And that girl wrote that letter to us, warning us. I read that letter on March the 12th from her, warning us, get ready. It's coming your way now. Get ready. And we had been ignoring this for 2 months, since January. Oh, it ain't going to be that bad. It ain't going to be that bad. Arrogance, foolhardiness. When I read that letter, I realized what she was saying was this thing is traveling toward us, and we have a head time, we have a lead time to start preparing ourselves, getting our units together, getting our gowns and our gloves together, equipping our healthcare professionals so that they be ready to fight this war instead of sending them into battle unequipped, unarmed, and unready to win. We didn't do anything about it. Even when I came on board, it was late. And when my understanding was late. And like I said, that was two weeks ago when I read the letter. Asking folks, let's get it going on. Actually 3 weeks ago, I guess. Yeah. Asking folks, man, we need to do something. This is serious. The people are dying inside of COVID-19 coronavirus units across the nation and around the world. So what does it look like? First off, what about the symptoms? How do we get to the coronavirus units, okay? The most common symptoms of the coronavirus are 3 things. The most common, okay? Fever, a dry cough, and shortness of breath. But those who are infected may only develop 1 or 2 of those symptoms over the course of their illness. And there are other symptoms that might show up, and those don't. But now I must emphasize, and I've been doing this every time that I've talked about coronavirus on my Facebook Lives, or every time I talk with somebody in person about it. Of course, maintaining 6 feet distance if I'm talking to them. But I must emphasize that the first symptoms generally don't come right after a person is infected. So in other words, if I caught this right now, I would not start with the fever or dry cough or shortness of breath right away. No. The virus's average incubation period can range up to 14 days, according to the Center for Disease Control. Up to 4. So that means that this is 14 days in which a coronavirus carrier is, one, highly contagious, and can infect others without even knowing they have the virus. For 14 days. 14 days you can actually be infected with this virus with no symptoms, walking around and spreading it to other people. And that's why they're telling people to stay home. That's why they're shutting beaches down. That's why they took our kids out of school, because our kids are in classrooms in close proximity of one another. And no matter where, if they picked it up, because they're not immune to this virus sits on hard surfaces for days, on clothes, in hair, and everything. And if our kids pick it up, they can actually transmit that to adults. They can bring it back home. And you got grandma in your house or grandpa in your house, or somebody with a depleted immune system or compromised immune system that will catch this virus and die. So they shut the schools down. They said, okay, instead of our kids going in. Now, I don't understand how liquor stores and gun stores get to stay open, and they call them essential, okay, but I'm not talking about that tonight. I'll post something else about that. It's crazy though, but to me, it is what it is. But the theory behind closing the beaches and all of this down is to just let people know, stay home. Stay home. Ask a healthcare professional that's out here in this war. What would they have you to do? Ask them. They're going to tell you one thing. Stay home. Stay home. Stay home. Come out as little as you have to, and don't interact with people while you're out. Stay home. Why? Because throughout the world, it's been proven this is one way that might help to decrease the body count ultimately caused by COVID-19, the coronavirus. Okay. So those symptoms. The incubation period of up to 14 days, there are no symptoms whatsoever. So people just walking around. I saw folks a little over a week ago down on the ball court and carrying on, balling. What was that, St. Patrick's Day 2 weeks ago tomorrow, right? Folks was, even though they finally did the night before cancel the St. Patrick's Day festivities in North Charleston, folks was all out and over there in the Park Circle area and carrying on and just partying up and carrying on. We ain't scared of no Rona. We ain't. I guarantee you somebody about right now got a spike in fever. Or something going on, for sure. That was 2 weeks ago, 14 days. Remember, 14 days, okay? Alrighty. That's why we see all of the spikes and things going on. That's why we see our South Carolina numbers jumping from 1 to 22 in 15 days. 15 days, that's right. So, with this virus, about 80%, okay, let's not misunderstand it. About 80% of the coronavirus cases are mild, okay? But even mild cases can be painful and long-lasting. And even you don't know whether you one of the 80% or one of these others. About 15% of the patients actually develop severe cases, which is really a nasty bug. It's like the flu times some. And then there are another 4 to 5%, who actually become critically ill, many of which will die. Okay? I'm not trying to sugarcoat this thing. And like I said, I'm not in this to win friends and influence people. I'm in here to tell the truth. Okay? But even with that, don't let that 80% sit in your spirit as if you, this is I'm in that bracket. Like it was said, this is the old folks thing, and people with compromised health that catch this. And the reality is now, and the data supports it, and the body bags support it, that our youth 20 to 54 years old are just as susceptible, and they die in just as much. As a matter of fact, we just had a death of a 13-year-old in the United States. A 13-year-old. So nobody's immune to this. Okay? If your number's up, your number's up. Hey, wifey, how you doing? Good to see you. Chase, what's going on? Reverend Glover, what's happening? All righty. 80% of the cases are mild, okay, but it's still a nasty virus. Another 15 develop severe cases, and of that final 20%, 4 to 5% actually become critically ill, and many of them do not survive. Around 88% of coronavirus patients, 88% develop a fever. Okay, again, after the incubation period, this is when this all starts. And more than 2/3 of them develop a dry cough after the incubation period, according to the World Health Organization. Okay, 19% of the patients will develop shortness of breath, a sore throat, and headache. And 14% will experience body aches or joint pain. All of this, again, I'm going to keep saying it, after the incubation period. Keep in mind, while you're out here interacting with people or you're feeling like it's not that important, okay, the person you're talking to could be a highly contagious carrier with no symptoms whatsoever. You sitting there looking for somebody that's sweating and got a dry cough and all of this, and that person just as normal as the next person out here, but is highly contagious with this virus. And you all up on them and carrying on. Now you got it. But you got a compromised immune system. You got an underlying health condition. And where that person might survive, guess where you wind up? Oh, I'm going to talk about that next, okay? All righty. So the following is a very rough timeline of the symptoms that are manifested in COVID-19 patients, okay? The symptoms as they come on a person. Now, I want you all to understand something before I go down this road, okay? I repeat, I am not a medically trained professional. I'm Pastor Dixon, okay? I'm a community advocate and activist, but I can read fairly well, though. Even though I'm just a high school grad, I can read fairly well. But I just want to make sure you understand, I am not a medically trained professional. And so, also, along with this, what I'm getting ready to say is not the way that all coronavirus cases progress, okay? This next little rough timeline, that's why it's rough. All of coronavirus cases don't progress the same way. This is a strange monster that we did. This monster is like a chameleon or a shapeshifter. It works differently with different people, and it affects people differently. And the outcome, well, don't get it, please. Just don't get it. So I just want to put that disclaimer out here, 2 disclaimers. I'm not a trained medical professional, and no matter what I say about the days in here, they're open to the coronavirus's discretion, not mine. Okay, so it could happen in any kind of order, any kind of sequence, okay? But this is a general outline, and I want everybody to know that, okay? All right. Rena, how you doing? All right. Kenneth, what's going on? Angela, what's happening? Carol, all right, good to see you. All righty. So, as I said, the first symptoms generally don't show up until after the incubation period that can range up to 14 days, okay? Then you get the first day 1. After the incubation period, when the symptoms begin to show up. Symptoms start off mild and are varied. Patients may experience a fever, dry cough, or occasional shortness of breath. Not that bad. Some may also feel fatigue or minor muscle pain, while a few will have diarrhea or nausea 1 or 2 days before this even happens. Okay, so these are the onset symptoms. These are the things that will begin to build in severity until you know, man, we got a problem. And these are the things that happen after this incubation period that could be up to 14 days where you don't know you got anything. Okay. Over the course of the disease, most people who become infected will experience some or all of the following. A fever, that's 83 to 99% of the people will get a fever. This dry cough, 59% to 82% will experience a dry cough. Fatigue, 44% to 70% will experience fatigue because this thing is actually attacking your lungs, okay? Shortness of breath, once again, attacking your lungs. 31 to 40% of the people who have this will have started to experience the symptoms will experience this shortness of breath. Sputum production or phlegm, coughing up phlegm. 28% to 38% of those who catch this disease will experience that. That'll be one of their symptoms. Myalgias. Myalgia is muscle pain. 11 to 35% of those who contract this disease will experience muscle pain. Anorexia, or the lack or the loss of appetite for food. 40 to 84% don't want to eat. They find themselves losing their appetite. And even most recently, it's been found out that anosmia or hyposmia, I just wanted to toss it out there so y'all would think that the high school grad is a little smart. Yeah, and I said I wasn't going to joke, but I just want to put that out there. Anosmia or hyposmia, which is the loss of smell, that's been found to be one of the symptoms, and also the loss of taste, a word that I can't even pronounce. I'm not even going to try it. Those have been identified as also being symptoms of coronavirus, and sometimes they actually are symptoms apart from the rest of these. So they'll show up, but the rest don't. Like I said, this virus is a shapeshifter, a chameleon, So you just have to be aware, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to make you aware. So this is day one with the onset symptoms, okay? With the onset symptoms. 3 days later, this is about how long it takes on average before the average patient is admitted to the hospital after their symptoms begin. So in other words, after that first day of the symptoms, it progressively gets worse. And usually about the third day, it's like, man, I need to do something about this. This thing is killing me. And upon going to the hospital, you wind up being admitted. About day 5, in severe cases, symptoms really start to worsen around day 5. Patients may have increasingly difficulty breathing, especially if they're older or have pre-existing health conditions. By this point, these patients will definitely be in an isolation unit. They will be quarantined, okay? From the time that these symptoms started showing up to 5 days later, this person who never even knew they were really sick for 14 days, up to 14 days, now they're not only in the hospital, but they're in a quarantine unit, isolation unit, okay? A couple of days later, approximately 8 days later, because remember, no treatment has been approved yet or found yet, no treatment whatsoever. So they don't know what to do when you get this. And there's no vaccine. A vaccine is about a year to a year and a half off. Some today were saying that one of the companies now might have one at the end of the year. But that ain't gonna do anybody that gets sick now any good whatsoever. You can't get well on hope. There's a message there. 8 days. In approximately 1 week's time, the condition has deteriorated so far. Pneumonia or acute respiratory distress system, what's called ARDS, ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome sets in. And this is what causes a person to have to be intubated, okay? A person, when this happens, acute respiratory distress syndrome or pneumonia, the lungs lose their ability to function properly and you can't breathe. So you have to have an artificial breather. And it's this machine called a ventilator that they insert a tube in your throat and they allow the tube to do the breathing for you. Okay, and that's why you hear all the conversation about ventilators, because you have so many people who are coming into our hospitals who are and ultimately winding up at this stage who need these ventilators to breathe for them to keep them alive, and we don't have near about enough. Nope, for sure. Listen, acute respiratory distress syndrome by itself, ARDS by itself, is often fatal. But coupled with this weakened system from the coronavirus, COVID-19, the rate of survival is slim to none. Okay, and remember, I said it before, 80% mild cases, another 15% will develop worse conditions, and there are about 5% that are almost doomed. And I hate to put it out there like that, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to say that, almost doomed, okay? And I put it out there because when we look at the numbers, when we look at the 22 that died here and the almost 4,000 in our nation that have died since the first case, the first death in the United States on the February 29th, March 1st, when we look at those people that died, if they had a choice, they would have lived. If they would have had any kind of choice, they would have wanted to live. They would have wanted to be here. If they even knew enough to watch out for things or to be aware of things, they might have decided to maintain social distance or not shake people's hands, and to really tell somebody who says this is a joke or a media scare to shut up and go on about their business, because that's a lot of the pits of hell. But we can't bring those people back, though. So just think, one of those people I talked about in a previous live, and I had it on my Facebook page because somebody had posted it, and it really touched me because this woman's daughter had posted it. A 63-year-old woman, 63 years old. That ain't old. I'll be 68 this year. 63 is not old. But her daughter said that, and this was a week ago Friday, so that would have been the 20th, I believe it was. On the 20th, her mother was doing fine, just fine. Everything was all right. By Monday morning, she had developed these flu-like symptoms. Remember that 3 days, remember? She had developed these flu-like symptoms and extremely low oxygen levels. And she went in and was admitted into the hospital, okay? And by the next weekend, she was dead from COVID-19 coronavirus. Just like the timelines that I just outlined, even though it's a rough timeline, it's how she perished. This thing ain't no joke at all. Again, after pneumonia or acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, sets in and the patient must be intubated, although I hate to paint such a grim and dire picture, but at this point, the chances of survival are slim, very slim. And that's where we get the numbers that we see right now. So what comes next, okay? Or even before the death of that patient. Here's where I think we all need to know the toll that death by coronavirus takes on the person who has contracted the disease and on the family members who are left to mourn. And this is why I thought it was important to share this information tonight. From the standpoint of that quarantined patient, from that patient who 8 days earlier or 10 days earlier was feeling just fine, enjoying life, planning for different occasions and graduations and birthdays and celebrations and all of a sudden life was interrupted by a dry cough and a spike in the fever and some early symptoms that over a couple of days went downhill quickly. And that same person decided, okay, I'm not feeling too good either. I think I do need to go to the hospital. And they go to the hospital, right? And they're admitted. And from the time that person is admitted, and they do not get any other human touch or contact, and everybody that they interact with from that point on till the day that they die is somebody in a gown and gloves and wearing a mask and looks like it's somebody from outer space. Nobody that they love around them. These people, that number that I gave, 3,558 in the United States as of today, 40,000, almost 41,000 globally. Those folks died alone with nobody but the healthcare people around them, the people who were trying to save their lives, or even a lot of times our healthcare people are just realizing that they can't, and the only thing they can do is try to keep them comfortable. And these people who once had a vibrant life ahead of them because of this coronavirus, where one day they just had to get up and go to the hospital and thinking that, okay, I'm going to go there, everything's going to be all right, I'm coming home. And the reality is that was the last walk that they made and the last interaction that they had with their husbands or wives or sons or daughters or mothers or fathers or grandchildren or children. The last contact they had was before they went to the hospital, because once someone is quarantined, ain't nobody getting in there from the family. Nobody. That's why I always sign off by saying hug your people. Hug them now. Hug them now. Because you don't know. None of us knows if we've been in contact with somebody who has coronavirus, COVID-19, and that thing might have invaded our bodies and ultimately wind up in that same position. Dying alone. Dying alone without having called up somebody who they parted ways with a while back. Never made up with them. It's funny how we get at death's door and things come to mind and it's like, man, it wasn't that big. I should have made up with them. But with this virus, ain't nothing to play with at all. So this is the impact on the patient. Can you imagine what goes through that patient's mind, and the only persons that they have around them are these hospital staffs that's gowned and gloved and masked, and they don't know them. They don't even know their names or whatever. And fortunately, maybe it's an angel there who will come and say, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I got my cell phone. I'm going to dial your number and let you FaceTime with your loved ones at home before you pass. This is real, folks. I'm not making this stuff up. And there are people in hospitals all across the United States, thousands of people right now. And it ain't got as bad as it's going to be. Folks, this thing is not even scheduled to peak in the worst places for about 2 weeks. And we're just on the come up. And we ain't ready. South Carolina ain't ready. Charleston ain't ready. MUSC, Trident, and Roper, they ain't ready. They ain't ready. And it's coming. And I'm just trying to get everyone's head where it needs to be, because there's not going to be an acceptance. But at least we'll say, wow, we knew it was coming. And we knew what to expect. So for that person that's infected, that's how that person goes. But just stop and think, okay? On the other side of the coin, what about those loved ones that person left? Last time they saw that person, they were dropping them off at the emergency room or somewhere at the virtual spots or somewhere to get swabbed. Last time they had a chance to say I love you in person. Last time they had a chance to hug that person. Well, actually, even because of social distancing, we're not even supposed to hug our loved ones. But I know folk gonna do that. I know they gonna do that. You're talking about mom or grandma getting ready to go in the hospital. Shoot, I know it. But just think about it. How many of our families that we got people in our families that we done had beef with for a long time, ain't talked with for a long time, been meaning to call up and make up with and at least have a chat for a long time, but never did it. And one day, that person called the Uber or the Lyft to take them into the clinic to see what's going on. Where can I get some help at? And that person never came home again. Saw him being carried out a back room and put in a refrigerator truck because there's no more room in the morgue for the bodies. New York City today. How will you feel if this is someone that you love? Can you carry this for the rest of your life? Just was too big to just say, man, I'm sorry. Or just didn't have time to just say, hey, I love you. Would you be able to carry this? I can't. And that's why I always say, every night I tell y'all, when I'm on this live, I love y'all, and I mean it. I mean it because I don't know what tomorrow holds. None of us knows what tomorrow holds. And our relationship between each other is the most important thing that we have aside from our relationship with God. Okay? For those who don't believe, it's okay too. I respect you for that. But I'm Pastor Dixon, and I believe, most important, telling people that you love them and really mean it. Don't tell them that you love them and then just treat them like trash. Don't do like a lot of folks I know that go to church on Sunday and a hypocrite for the next 6 days out of the week. Well, 6.5, because they get started as soon as the doors of the church open. Don't do it. You're either going to love people and love them right, or don't fake it, don't flaunt it, for sure. But there's a reason behind all of this, and I don't know what it is, but man, think about the people who would just want to be with their loved ones as they transition, to stand there, to hold their hands, to pray with them, to talk to them and hear those last words. And coronavirus will deny anyone and everyone of that opportunity. The next time that you see your loved one will be at Murray's or Dickinson's. Not good, folks. Not good. Not good when you stop and you think that there could be a point where there's no one at your loved one's side but a stranger who may or may not even hold his or her hand as they take their last breath. Think about it. I'm asking you. I'm begging you. Think about it. In this thing, as I call those numbers out, think about the lives that have been lost, especially from that aspect of both that person that has it and knows that their life is now short and they'll never get a chance to see those that they didn't get a chance to hug and kiss before they got to that point, and those who are being left behind who never did what was necessary to let that person that's dying know they love them. Think about it. Think about the hearts that are broken and the more that will be, because this thing ain't nowhere near over. People gonna die. The stress caused by it. I can't even call mom. I can't even call grandpa. And I sure would like to go see him, but I can't go see him. The unsaid words. Think about it. And the forever heartaches, because in those cases, it doesn't go away. The heartaches stay. The person will leave, but the heartaches will remain. Maybe eventually that'll stop hurting. But it's kind of hard to get over when you know that you could have made up with somebody or hugged somebody or kissed somebody or told them you loved them a long time ago, and you just did not do it because you didn't have time, because you thought you had tomorrow to do it. Don't wait. Do it now. Get it in, folks. People are dying inside of COVID-19 units all across the United States and around the world, and we don't know who's next. Tell somebody you love them. Hug them. Not no strangers. Social distancing. Please. Please. They're not going to let you into the hospital to see your loved one. I don't care how much cane you raise. They're not going to let you in if that person has been quarantined. That's done. And this is why I felt it was necessary for me to bring this message tonight. Okay? And I'm going to be closing this thing out, okay, as I go forward. But I can't close it out without, I talked about the person that's in the quarantine unit and they're transitioning. And I talked about the impact that it would have on those who loved that person. Okay? But I didn't talk about the impact that this has on those who take care of those folks there. It's you imagine the toll that is taken on the hearts of those who work in those units. Can you imagine it? They're seeing people deteriorate in their condition from a cough and a high fever to being on a breathing machine and ultimately dying. As they see a tear drop out of that eye because they know that that person would love to be with their loved ones and they probably not going to see them no more. Can you imagine the toll that it's taking on these doctors and these nurses and these anesthesiologists and the radiologists, and just like my wife, the respiratory therapists and the nurses' aides and the EMTs? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine even for environmental services, the housekeepers in the hospital and food service people who work in the hospital, who know that they're going into a war zone themselves and what's happening not yards away from them as far as people dying? This takes a toll on the mind and the heart. And these heroes and sheroes are doing this every day. And they're going to be doing it every day for a long time. Think about it, folks. I'm just trying to make a connection, heart to heart, from people. Let's get out of the head thing when it comes to this whole coronavirus and just understand we got a heart relationship that's under attack right now. And if we don't have compassion, if we don't have love for one another, if we don't put ourselves in other people's shoes, ultimately, we are not going to be able to survive this. Our truck drivers consistently making these runs in order to make sure we have stuff at our grocery outlets. Toilet tissue, paper towels, canned goods. Our truck drivers, and they're in harm's way too because they're out here interacting in the public. They're in harm's way too. Our retail workers, our cashiers and stockers, who are continually keeping our stores at a place where we can somehow eke out time to go and get some supplies. So hopefully we go back home and do as what's called for, to stay at home. Okay? Following the guidelines. those who work in our banking systems, because the banks are essentials. They're still working in spite of. Our restaurant owners and those who are still doing drive up and take out. What a service they're doing in spite of. And any one of those that I named are in the crosshairs of Corona. Anyone can be attacked at any given time. And those healthcare workers, they're working under wartime situations. This is a war. I heard the president call it a war. I've heard many people call it a war. But who do we send into war without proper equipment? We send our men and women overseas to fight in a war, and they got the right kind of body armor and weapons, and they got backup and all of that. And we got a war going on right here in our hospitals in the United States, and our soldiers don't even have the masks to wear, the gowns to wear, the stuff that it's going to take for them to protect themselves from getting killed by the enemy. It's time for us to man up, people. It's time for us to be about our business and to fight back in this war. And the fight back comes when we decide that we're going to operate according to the way that the guidelines are put out when it comes to social distancing, when it comes to hand washing with soap, 20 seconds or better, okay? Sanitize when you can, but still in all, frequent hand washing, okay? No handshakes, no fist bumps. I know I still see people doing this here, but like I said before, we tell everybody to cough in your elbow. Now, I got coronavirus. I cough in my elbow, and I don't even know I got it. And I want to bump elbows with you? I don't think so. Practicing safe distancing. It's okay to greet somebody like this or like this or like that. It's okay. Or just a nod. How you doing? Good to see you. It's okay. Because we're the ones that have to fight this battle. We're the ones that have to do it. Stay in home. Stay at home. Clean your house. Clean your house. Because this thing, you can track this thing in on your shoes. And it's in your carpet. And it'll sit there a while. The recommendation is that if you go outside, when you come back to your house, that you drop your clothes at the door and put them on in the washer if you got a washer. Or put them in a bin where they can stay at outside of the house and clean your shoes off. That's the recommendation. That's right, Faye. Stay at home. That's the recommendation. Self-quarantine yourself, whether you're feeling bad or not, whether you're showing symptoms or not, because you don't know whether you got it. Quarantine yourself for at least 2 weeks coming. Make today the first day of your quarantine. Let's do what Mount Pleasant and the city of Charleston decided to do. North Charleston just made excuses for it today. I'm really upset about that, but I'm not going to go down that trail. But I did watch Mayor Will Haney today, and what he showed me was real leadership. Real leadership that says, okay, I'm going to address the issue. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to do like Mayor Summey says, and well, we ain't that bad because we ain't as bad as them over there, instead of saying what we're going to do and how we fix this problem. He talked about shutting it down for 2 weeks at least in order to make sure that we confine and we contain this problem and identify those who are sick, and thereby we don't overrun our hospitals and make other people sick and everything. Man, he gave a great speech. I got some of the highlights on my Facebook pages. Please watch him and give him a shout out. He's on Facebook, Will Haney, Haynie. Give him a shout out. You know. And I heard the mayor of the city of Charleston do the same thing. Real leadership. You know. And this ain't got nothing to do with me not winning the election, okay? This is just real talk, dealing with real people who right now are really dying. And it's time for us to man up and be about it. We're in a war, people. Let me tell you what Will Haney said, okay? And I got a quote from him. Simone, how you doing? I need to get with you all. I need to talk. I talked to your mom the other day. and we're going to pursue this thing with Ben for sure. But let me tell you about how Will Haney, and this thing stuck in me when he said it. It was like, wow, he gets it. He gets it. He said this, okay, and I quote. He said, "Wars aren't won based on how many hospital beds or bandages you can provide. It's based on how you can take your fight to the enemy and stop the enemy in his tracks." Right now, the enemy is COVID-19, coronavirus, and the time now is to stop that enemy in the tracks. And how do we do it? We abide by the guidelines that have been set forth in order to make sure that we're slowing down any progress that it makes. And ultimately, if we have to shut everything down, do it, and do it willingly. The life you save may be your own, or mine, or my grand's, or my wife's, or your grand's, or your wife's. Shut it down. Stop playing. This is a war. Let's start acting like it. Let's stop acting like it. Let's start acting like it. Let's make sure that we're doing everything that we can in order to slow the progress of coronavirus, COVID-19. Because if we don't, well, you saw the numbers. I talked to you about the numbers. March 16th, 15 days ago, there were 85 cases in the United States. Now, what was that number I gave? 3,558. And that was about an hour ago. It's probably over 4,000 now. See, it's spreading that bad. The death toll. It's not cases. This is death toll. This is people who are going to need a casket. Brothers and sisters, if you don't take anything away from this tonight, but this, please do it. Just accept in your heart that this is a war, and we're all going to have to fight this war together. Because if we don't, each one of us becomes the enemy. Each one of us that is infected by this virus becomes the enemy. We become the host of the enemy. We take the virus to other people and don't even know it. We have to decide in our hearts, enough is enough. Enough is enough. The job ain't gonna go nowhere. Be fortunate if you even have an owner alive, unless that owner is doing what it takes. This virus can shut down everything. Expected death toll, they're saying between 100,000 and 240,000 in the United States, and possibly up to 2 million in the United States. I'm not making this up. Fact check me. So my friends, my brothers and sisters, please, let's make that decision to take our fight to the enemy and to stop the enemy in its tracks. And the enemy is COVID-19, the coronavirus. I love you all. I thank you all for being so patient with me tonight. So many folks that's on tonight. Dave all the way from Chi-Town, I love you. Nephew, what's happening, Mike? Alrighty. Listen, please, folks, take this seriously. Don't listen to anybody that tries to insinuate this is a media scare. Get mad because in North Charleston, instead of being proactive about addressing this, we have a mayor that points fingers and says we're not doing as bad as the next person. That's not an answer. That is not a response. The response is, what are we going to do to fight it? We need a champion in that spot. I saw it in Will Haney today. I saw it in John Tecklenburg the other day. I heard Greg Habib and Goose Creek moving on it. Let's do this. Let's do this, folks. Because if we don't, and we look back 6 months from now, or a year from now, And you know how that 1 year anniversary pop up on your timeline on Facebook? Don't let us regret it because we didn't do what we needed to do now to make sure that a better day was coming. Listen, this is Pastor Dixon, man. I love you all so much. Again, hug somebody. Tell somebody you love them. I don't care who it is. Call somebody that you got an issue with and tell them, hey, I'm not calling to argue. I'm calling to tell you one thing. Forgive me and I love you. Don't ask me what for. Just do it, please. Don't ask me why you need to forgive me. No, we're not going to get all into that. I just want you to know that I'm sorry for whatever I might have done. Forgive me and I love you. Let's try it. Let's try it. We've been fighting for too long. Black on black, white on white, brown on brown, red on red, yellow on yellow, black on white, brown on white. All of this bickering and divisiveness. It's time to stop that. It's time for us to come together. And if we don't do it now, we will perish together. God bless you all. I love you all. Hug somebody. Hug somebody tonight. Call them up and tell them you love them. I'm going to leave you with that. I'll holler again, possibly Friday or something like that, okay? I'll give you some heads up. Y'all stay on my pages, okay? Keep watching out. God bless. I love you. Peace. Oh, I love you and ain't nothing you can do about that either. Peace.